Welcome to our Centennial Convocation. It's wonderful to have you with us. I hope you have a most blessed week, and may God bless you.
G'day, and welcome to Convocation.
Welkom. Wamukelekile.
Wij wensen u een hele gezegende convocatie.
আমাদের কনভোকেশনে আপনাদের স্বাগত।
Välkommen till Convocation.
Van ons allen hartelijk welkom.
Καλώς ορίσατε στο συνέδριό μας.
We're so happy to have you with us.
વેલકમ. આપ સૌનું શતવર્ષીય કોન્વોકેશનમાં હાર્દિક સ્વાગત છે.
Σας ευχόμαστε μια υπέροχη εβδομάδα.
हमारे पहले ऑनलाइन कॉन्वोकेशन में आपका बहुत स्वागत है.
Welcome. We're so glad you came, each one of you. Have a most blessed week.
Folge Convocation.
Benvenuti alla convocazione.
Sejam bem-vindos à convocação.
आप सभी का हार्दिक अभिनंदन.
नमस्कार, कॉन्वोकेशन मध्ये आपलं हार्दिक स्वागत.
皆さん、コンボケーションへようこそ。お待ちしておりました。
Amour et joie pour une semaine de bénédiction.
Welcome to Convocation.
Sirsnīgs sveiciens jums visiem.
Amgel Semelanantu, Upastita Shilenka, Swagatam.
我们很高兴欢迎你。
SRF శతవార్షికోత్సవ సమ్మేళనానికి మీ అందరికీ హార్దిక స్వాగతం.
Dobrodošli. Veoma se radujemo što ste sa nama.
Bienvenidos a la convención.
ଆମେ ବହୁତ ଖୁସି କି ଆପଣ ଏହି ସଂଗମରେ ଭାଗ ନେଉଛନ୍ତି।
உங்களை கான்வகேஷனுக்கு வரவேற்கிறோம்.
Feliz e abençoada convocação.
Laskavo próximo. Dobro pожаловать.
Es un gran placer darles la bienvenida a esta convención.
Malagaya pagdating sa convocación.
Herzlich willkommen zur Welttagung.
Un caro benvenuto a tutti voi.
మీ అందరికీ హార్దిక స్వాగతం.
Dobrodošli, prijatelji, upam da ste dobro. Želim vam veliko radosti.
Greetings. Welcome to our convocation. We are happy to have you with us. Jai Guru.
Hello, I'm Brother Chidananda, and I want to add my welcome to the greetings you've just received from monks and nuns who have entered the order from all over the world. I want to take that greeting and also expand it so that it comes from all of us, all of the monastics in Self-Realization Fellowship and Yogoda Satsanga Society of India. We're excited this week to bring you, our worldwide family, a total immersion into the Kriya Yoga teachings of Paramahansa Yogananda. This 7-day event will include a complete program of classes, daily live stream meditations, including kirtans, and pilgrimage tours to our beautiful ashram centers that were founded by our Guru. Follow me. On January 5th of this year, here at the Self-Realization Fellowship International Headquarters, our President, Brother Chidananda, inaugurated our honoring and celebrating the 100th anniversary of Yogananda's arrival in the West and the beginning of his work. We would like to take you back to that moment in time. This chapel is located inside the International Headquarters building. It goes back many years and has a rich history. It was from here that Yogananda led meditations, gave services, and held Kriya Yoga initiations. And it's been used as a chapel ever since those days. Those of you who have visited Mother Center and meditated here know that it is permeated with the blessings and vibrations of Yogananda. Some of the classes this week will be held here in the chapel. Others, various areas throughout the main hall. A daily schedule is on our website, and you can check for times. At this point, I would like to introduce our revered president of Self-Realization Fellowship and Yogoda Satsanga Society of India, Brother Chidananda.
Loving greetings and pranams. What a joy to think of the thousands and thousands, and to each one of you, those thousands of shining souls spread around the world. I welcome you to the Self-Realization Fellowship Centennial Convocation. We begin by turning our hearts with reverence and gratitude to the great lineage of gurus of Self-Realization Fellowship, Yogoda Satsanga Society of India. Feel their presence of Jesus Christ, Bhagavan Krishna, Mahavatar Babaji, Lahiri Mahashaya, Swami Sri Yukteswarji, and our own Guru founder, Paramahansa Yogananda ji. In their name, I welcome all of you. As you saw in the opening video sequence just now, this year's convocation is a very special one, since it's celebrating the 100th anniversary of Paramahansa Yogananda's founding of Self-Realization Fellowship and the anniversary of his arrival in America to spread the SRF teachings. Those teachings of Kriya Yoga meditation and the art of living in the world while maintaining a tangible, dynamic connection with the divine spirit that pervades all creation. All of us here are so thrilled and filled with joy at the thought of what you are going to receive this week. You're going to receive a great ocean of spiritual consciousness, of wisdom, love, and joy. But what you receive also depends on you. So now at the very beginning of the week, please let's take a moment together to make ourselves receptive, to consciously calm yourself, open your heart to what you are about to receive. Please close your eyes and gently uplift them to the Christ Consciousness Center. Calm your mind. Feel peace. Feel the joyous expectancy in the heart, that joyous anticipation. And feel that your nerves are becoming a sensitive antenna to tune in with the higher vibrations of God consciousness. And especially feel your attention flowing into the point between the eyebrows in a concentrated way and collecting there at the spiritual eye center and in the heart. Now let us affirm together, I relax and cast aside all mental burdens, allowing God to express through me His perfect love, peace, and wisdom. I relax and cast aside all mental burdens, allowing God to express through me His perfect love, peace, and wisdom. I relax and cast aside all mental burdens, allowing God to express through me His perfect love, peace, and wisdom. Beloved friends, our Guru said, peace emanates from the soul, and it is the sacred inner environment in which true happiness unfolds. Feel that peace. Feel that divine peace of God, the peace that surpasseth all understanding, flowing up from your soul, enveloping you and creating that sacred inner environment for this blessed week of Convocation. You know, all of you who have participated in convocations in past years, you know that convocation is not just a week of classes. More than that, it's a transmission of sacred knowledge. So we always begin the convocation by invoking the presence of God and the great gurus to create and consecrate a sacred space in which the convocation events will take place. And for this online, first time, truly worldwide convocation, feel that we're creating a great, vast, wall-less temple, unbounded, filled with the presence of God and our great gurus, encompassing the entire globe because you are participating from the entire globe, from all over the world. So visualize and feel that you are within that vast, sacred, wall-less temple, softly lit up, illumined by the light of transcendent joy and peace, and that you are joined by thousands of divine friends and beloved fellow disciples on this path. And a special, joyous welcome to any and all of you who are participating in this convocation for the very first time. For many of you, maybe it's even your first time participating in any event of Self-Realization Fellowship. So we're so happy to have you with us. Stay with us this week and feel the blessings, feel the spiritual power that's there waiting for you to receive. So as always now, let's have an opening prayer to consecrate this sacred space of convocation, an invocation of the divine presence to inaugurate this centennial convocation. And you're going to hear a very special recording. You're going to hear the opening blessing given by Paramahansa Yogananda himself. And this was a recording that was done at the very first Self-Realization Fellowship Convocation back in 1950, 70 years ago this week. It was on August 13th. Here we are on August 9th. So just the same week of Convocation, 1950, that's when he began this program of worldwide convocations. And you'll hear him talk about that in his words. He was right down below the main building here on the tennis court, celebrating the 30th anniversary of SRF, just as today we're celebrating the 100th. So please, will you show the photo of this event on the screen? And now, let us hear the Invocation and Blessing, Guruji's recording.
Will you all fold your hands and pray with me? Heavenly Father, bless this day of the 30th anniversary of our self-realization fellowship work, which has spread all over the world. Bless this first convention, that may it be carried on every year in the future for the good of all. Heavenly Father, Jesus, Krishna, Babaji, Lahadi Mahashai, Sri Yukteswar Ji, Guru Preceptor, saints of all religions, I bow to you all. May thy love shine forever on the sanctuary of my devotion. May I be able to awaken thy love in all true hearts.
Dear friends, receive the love and blessings and outpouring of divine light that's flowing to you at this very moment from our Guru Paramahansa Yogananda and our great lineage of liberated masters who are watching over and helping the world. You are the fulfillment of the prediction he gave in those words on that recording when he prayed to God to bless the first convocation, that it would be carried on every year in the future for the good of all. And now, all of you who are gathered in your homes, in all the countries around the world, what a glorious and joyous fulfillment of that prediction. You know, the world is very different than it was at that first convocation. The world is very different even than at last year's convocation. And I'm sure all of us are asking or have asked ourselves, what is going on? What is going on? How do we adapt and not only get through the present difficulties, the unprecedented changes and challenges we've seen over the past months? How do we not only get through them, but actually to use them as an accelerator in our own spiritual development, in our own spiritual progress, and that of the world at large? Well, if that is your question, you've come to the right place. You've come to the right place. Let's step back for a moment and just get a larger perspective on things. You know, for thousands of years, the holy Himalaya mountains, those have been the silent and secluded abode of yogis and meditators, saints and sages, and even a few of the highest divine beings, the avatars or divine incarnations. So right now, picture that scene. Picture those secluded, beautiful, glorious mountain fastnesses, far away from the hubbub of society and its problems and concerns. And those great ones, those devoted saints and meditators and yogis, they devoted themselves to realization of the highest truths of creation and the awakening of their own divinity, and also that of the few lucky disciples who, in one way or another, were blessed to find their way to that heaven on earth. Now we picture, and we don't have to visualize because it's all too real right in front of us, the contrasting scene of modern society, stressed, filled with fears and struggles, of rushing after the next dollar to be made, conflicted, confused, beset with environmental pollution, homelessness and poverty and wars, racial inharmonies, religious conflicts. The list, unfortunately, goes on and on and on. It's quite a divide, isn't it? Quite a contrast from that harmony and peace and divine environment and the blessed abode of the saints. But now, let's realize that a truly epoch-making event happened 100 years ago. Those illumined yogis, those saints and masters, they began the process of taking their spiritual blessings, taking their profound understanding of the universal laws and methods for overcoming all human suffering, all human problems. They began the process of taking that out of the secluded mountain and forest hermitages and into the marts of men, as Guruji said. Think about it. The highest yoga science of God realization. It was beginning to expand and spread beyond ageless India to the modern materialistic world, a world so greatly in need of it. Now remember, as we start this centennial convocation, remember who played a key role in this. In Autobiography of a Yogi, Paramahansaji says this. He says, Babaji is ever in communion with Christ. Together they send out vibrations of redemption and have planned the spiritual technique of salvation for this age. The work of these two fully illumined masters, one with a body and one without a body, is to inspire the nations to forsake wars, race hatreds, religious sectarianism, and the boomerang evils of materialism. And this is so important for all of us. Our Guru goes on to say, Babaji is well aware of the trend of modern times, and especially of the influence and complexities of Western civilization, and realizes the necessity of spreading the self-liberations of yoga equally in the East and the West. As you all know, Paramahansa Yogananda was assigned that mission of beginning that dissemination of yoga equally in the West and the East and all around the globe. So as we honor the centennial of that momentous event when he left the shores of India to come and begin that mission, I wanted just to spend a few minutes reflecting on the key points of what he brought. You know, when he stepped off that ship in Boston in 1920, 100 years ago, no doubt the great masters knew what he was bringing and what a great treasure that would literally change the course of modern civilization. And yet for those who met him in those early days, it probably took quite a while. And even now, we have such an advantage. Looking back after 100 years, we have the advantage of seeing things perhaps through a lens, through a focus that maybe those first friends and students of his had yet to discover. So let me just crystallize a few of the key contributions that our Guru, that Paramahansaji brought. First one I would say is this: a worldview that reveals the divine purpose of life. And it reveals that divine purpose of life to a modern civilization that's increasingly lost, increasingly bereft of moral and spiritual meaning. Yogananda ji took India's ancient eternal truth, Sanatana Dharma, eternal principles of truth, and he restated it in terms that were understandable, believable, and most of all, relevant to men and women in the modern age. And in so doing, he introduced to the world a set of ideas and practices that we have seen since then. We have seen them take root on the cutting edge of psychology, religion, medicine, education, and more as time goes on in the minds of the public at large. Then we go on. If that was all that he brought, that would have been momentous, but it goes on. There's 6 points here that I want to draw our attention to. Second one, he brought a concept of God that makes God approachable and relevant and desirable to modern men and women. You know, Guruji, he totally threw out this false notion of God or the Lord as this vengeful judge that so many in the West had become accustomed to thinking of. Instead, he taught that God's nature is ever new joy, and that human beings are made in the image of God, and that they can know Him. They can know God as Father, Mother, Friend, Divine Beloved, or as any one of Spirit's manifest qualities, such as infinite bliss, wisdom, light, peace, and love. Again, a revolutionizing of the concept of God that had grown and taken root in so many parts of the world. You know, our master loved this story, and by master I mean Paramahansa Yogananda. We call him master, one who is master of himself. He loved this story that was told about a very dogmatic, a very orthodox preacher, such as there were many in the United States. And this preacher was in the habit of insisting that we were all sinners, that all people were, and unbelievers, they would go to hell to burn forever. And he would quote, "And there will be wailing and gnashing of teeth." And then one time, somebody asked him, "But Reverend, what about those who have no teeth?" And that didn't stop him for a second, and he thundered on, "They will be furnished teeth, that they may gnash them." As our Guru would say, I bow to your colossal ignorance. So, if you're one of those who may have been affected in childhood in your past religious upbringing, who may have difficulty with the word God, do yourself a favor and read the Master's introduction to the Srf Lessons, Highest Achievements Through Self-Realization. You'll find it after the talk in the links below the video window. There's a whole section on what is God, and I think that'll give a very different perspective. So going on, crystallize these key elements of what our Guru brought, a worldview that reveals the divine purpose of life, a concept of God that makes Him approachable and desirable to modern men and women. And then third, a step-by-step set of instructions by whose practice any one of us can attain the state of God realization. That's the third one. Then we go on, the fourth one, I would say, a vision of the essential oneness of humanity and the essential oneness of all true religions. You know, very beautifully, one time our Guru said this. He said, "I cannot conceive of a Jesus Christ or a Lord Krishna or the rishis of old calling any man a Christian, a Hindu, a Jew, and so forth. He said, I can conceive of their calling every man my brother." Isn't that beautiful? Through those groundbreaking scriptural commentaries on the main scriptures of Christianity and Hinduism, our Guru brought to us this vision, this possibility of realizing for ourselves and to spread out over humanity at large that oneness of all true spiritual paths, that all those paths share a common scientific foundation, the practice of definite techniques of meditation, the practice of them that leads to attaining direct personal experience of the one truth that underlies all religions, all human beings, all creation. Are you beginning to get a glimpse of, the truly, I use the word epoch making. He used that word about the teachings that he was asked to bring to the world. Are you getting a glimpse of the magnitude of what he brought? And it goes on. The fifth one, I would say, was a whole set, a whole program of how to live principles for balanced development of body, mind, and soul. We think back, we've read these lessons, self-realization fellowship lessons that were compiled from his talks and lectures and that he wrote many of more than 70 years ago. And in that set of how to live principles, and you think about it, you look around, you see that what he was so far-sighted, that what he brought really helped to introduce to the world at large most of the essential elements of this balanced or this holistic lifestyle that's now being advocated as the scientific basis of human well-being. Again, what he brought. And then the sixth one, the last one I would end with, in addition to those, he brought us a true understanding of the guru-disciple relationship. Again, from time immemorial, going back millennia, that guru-disciple relationship has been the means by which sincere seekers of God, sincere seekers of truth, progress on the path to divine realization. And yet the real meaning of that relationship has been lost sight of, has degenerated in recent centuries. But what our Guru brought, and not only brought, but he illustrated and exemplified in the example of his own life, and in the example and the training that he gave to those around him, and by extension to all of us. We see the true meaning of that Guru-disciple relationship. So these are just a few of the key points that I would say that as we look back on the 100 years since he arrived on these shores, that we see that he brought for the benefit of all of us. And I mention this list for two reasons. Two reasons. First of all, because they represent exactly what the world needs to address not just the symptoms, but the root causes of the problems we face today. And secondly, because they represent what you are going to receive and learn and absorb and claim as your own during this week of spiritual retreat, this week of pilgrimage, this week of classes and group meditation together. Now, let's be clear. We're at a turning point in the course of world history. We're at a very critical juncture in the evolution of the human race. And many of you know that years ago, starting around the time of World War II, and then after the war, until his passing, our Master sometimes spoke of the troubling times that he foresaw in the future that would come to the world. And later on, our revered late President, Sri Dayamata, also spoke of this, and she told us of her own divine experience of the dark times that humanity would pass through, but most important, that humanity would pass through and how the world would ultimately emerge into the greater light of God. You can read her words. You can read the description of that divine experience and her reflections on it. If you're not familiar with them, we'll place a link to her counsel about that. You can read during the week below the window. But the reason I'm mentioning the point is this, that a lot of people have been asking, is this the world crisis that they predicted? Is this the time? And the answer is, it depends. It depends. It depends on whether we choose to learn the lessons that the crisis is meant to teach. If we do, then yes, this was the turning point. We'll look back and we'll say this was the turning point that was predicted. And we'll move forward and beyond all of these crises. On the other hand, if we choose to ignore or defer learning those lessons, then no, it is not the one foretold, and another one will come as predicted. You understand? Doesn't that make sense? Now, I don't say this to frighten anyone, or to alarm, or to put a negative tone on this, but it's important that we be realistic about where we are in the world today. And I know it's such an easy thing to do, probably all of us from time to time. It's so tempting to think, oh, why did I have to be born in a time when the world has such bad karma? Do you ever find yourself thinking that? And I know sometimes that thought comes to all of us. Why did I have to be born in a time when the world is going through such bad karma? But the thing is this, we have to remember, karma is not punishment. It's not a punishment or a judgment meted out by a vengeful, angry God. That's the old thinking. That's based on the religious dogmas of the Dark Age, Kali Yuga, which we have now left behind. God is not a judge. God is love. God is light, joy. And the purpose of the law of karma is not to punish us, but to awaken us. Awaken us to what? Awaken us to what, you might say? Well, I would say in a practical sense, in a specific sense, to awaken us to the exact list that I just went over in summarizing the legacy of Paramahansa Yogananda. And the thing is, that's not just a legacy or a historical overview of what he accomplished. More than that, it was a prophecy. It was his divine, visionary prophecy for how the human family would grow, how the human family would evolve into a higher civilization, a better world in the years ahead. When you look at it in that light, isn't that a thrilling prospect? And when we look back just even over the past few decades, there's already been significant progress. I would say even tremendous progress in that direction. In this gradual awakening of the world to embracing the spiritual consciousness, embracing the spiritual way of living that our world needs to move into that higher, more enlightened era. So, dear ones, my friends, my companions on this divine path, and all of you again who are joining us for the first time, I'd like to begin our week together by extending an invitation to you. This week, let's come together to build a better world. This week, I invite you right now, today, to become a visionary, to become a seer, to become a mystic in the heart of the world, to become a lover of God, a lover of spirit, and a lover of spirit that dwells in all. Because that is the highest service that any of us can render to ourselves and to the world. You know, souls like that are really the highest hope for healing in this world. Actually, not just the highest hope, the only hope. The only hope. Our Guru said, as soon as you feel God in your heart, you will contribute to world civilization as no king, no politician has ever done before. That's the key, that's the theme that I want to impress on all of us, that I invite all of us to embrace as we begin this centennial convocation. As soon as you feel God in your heart, you will be able to contribute to world civilization as no king, no politician has ever done before. I want to share these words, beautiful words. This is how Paramahansa Yogananda envisioned what we're talking about. He said, we want Christs and Buddhas walking the busy streets of New York and the esplanades of Calcutta. Christs and Buddhas sweeping the streets and running the big banks, performing all duties from the humblest to the most exalted. All duties are important, he said, great ones as well as small ones. Both kinds are necessary for keeping the wheels of the world going. Small or great duties do not make their performers small or great. Both should be performed only by great ones. When all duties of this imperfect earth will be performed by angelic men and women, when the stock market and the church will both be run only by those who are nothing less than prophets, then our earth will be heaven and darkness will be changed into light. A key teaching of yoga, a key teaching of this spiritual path that our Guru brought to us is this: whatever we can visualize, we can achieve. Whatever we can visualize, we can achieve. So Paramahansa Yogananda, our Gurudev, he gave us the vision. He gave us the sacred knowledge of what to visualize, what to dream, what to hope for, to strive for, and ultimately achieve in terms of our own self-realization, in terms of the elevation of our own consciousness, the purifying, the spiritualizing of our way of being in the world that will gradually ripple outward, as he said, bringing and hastening that true harmonious heaven on earth that is within the realm of possibility, if all take this to heart. And those of you who have been following these teachings for many years, you know of what I'm speaking of. And you know, all of us who have been on this path and not only read, not only heard the teachings of Paramahansa Yogananda, not only learned the techniques of meditation, but year after year, decade after decade, practicing them, going deep with them, we're here to tell you that to embrace that vision is the most joyous, the most exciting, the most meaningful, the most fulfilling way to live life on this planet. Remember, as Paramahansaji said, change yourself, and then you have done your part in changing the world. Now, there's obstacles in front of us. We all know this. We can all see them. We've all been confronting them. We've all been battling with them, especially in a unique, more unexpected and unprecedented way these past months. We need to be aware of them so that we can overcome them victoriously. And the sad fact is that in today's world there's a lot of darkness, spiritually speaking, psychologically speaking. You know, physical darkness, that prevents us from seeing what's around us. And spiritual or psychological darkness, that prevents us from seeing the unrealized potentials that are available to us. In other words, that spiritual darkness, delusion, Maya, it makes us feel discouraged. It tries to make us feel a sense of defeatism or being victimized or fearful or powerless. And as I said, in yoga terminology, that darkness has a name, Maya, delusion. That cosmic force of darkness that clouds and obscures the truth so that we cannot see what is real. We cannot see accurately what is even right around us. Now again, we mustn't let ourselves be discouraged by what's going on in the world today. Because remember those yogis in the pristine abode of peace and harmony that we were visualizing and we were picturing them a few minutes ago. And remember what they sent to all of us. Remember that what we are going through right now, what the world is going through, this is exactly what Jesus and Babaji anticipated and why they sent Paramahansa Yogananda and the teachings of Kriya Yoga to the world 100 years ago this year. So yes, the darkness, the downward pull of Maya, it's pretty active right now. No question about it. But the whole science of yoga is designed to give us victory over Maya, over darkness and delusion and ignorance, so that we, each one of us, can stand face to face with truth. And the truth is this: for every soul, for every man, woman, and child, whatever race, whatever religion, whatever nationality, the truth is that we are divine beings. We're divine beings with potentially unlimited access to the great joy and bliss that lights the stars and gives power to the winds and storms, as our Guru said. That's what it means to become a mystic in the heart of the world, a lover of spirit, lover of God, and of God in all. So my friends, during this week, and even more so in the Srf Lessons, which will extend the experience of this week into a lifelong unfoldment of your spiritual potentials, you're going to receive all the tools you need to become a victorious divine warrior, no matter what the world throws at us. The answers are there. We just have to pick them up. We have to familiarize ourselves with the way to make best use of them and practice. That's what you have to look forward to in this week ahead of us. As you know, as was mentioned in the introduction video, we have a wonderful program. Our monastics and lay member volunteers, hundreds and hundreds, have been working hard to prepare this experience for all of you. God bless them all. And I know that your gratitude reaches out, as does mine, to the many, many who helped to make this possible. I'm going to say more about that in more detail at the end of the week. But for now, I just want you to know that we'll be joyously welcoming you to all these activities, the classes, the meditations, the periods of divine chanting, devotional chanting, And one thing I also want to mention, because this is the first time we've done a convocation like this online, just to make sure everybody knows, if you look in the lower part of your screen on the convocation webpage, you'll find a little help button. And don't be shy about using that. There's, as I said, there's hundreds of wonderful, friendly souls that are there waiting to give you the answers of how do I get here, how do I get there, where's that meditation again, when does the chanting start, and so on. So I can't even begin to express what this has meant and what it is going to mean over the next 7 days for all of us. And also one other thing I want to say is that just a few days ago here at Mount Washington, but we connected by video conference with all of Paramount Yogananda's ashram centers where our monks and nuns live all around the world, in the US, in Europe, and in India. And we went over the program of convocation, and I gave each one of them a duty. I gave each one of them the special request and responsibility that throughout this week, all of our monks and nuns of all those ashrams around the world, they are going to be praying for each of you. They're going to be praying for every one of you who's participating in this convocation. Again, that you receive that transmission of spiritual consciousness, that transmission of sacred knowledge by which our lives will change. Now you can see the program for the rest of today. There's this opening event that we're having right now. Later on, a few hours from now, there'll be the first of the group meditations that's scheduled. So there's some hours in between there. Now, depending on what time zone you're in, some of you, that will be your time of retiring and having your private meditation and getting some sleep. But for those of you who have the day ahead of you, let me suggest something. Let me suggest something as a way to begin this convocation with clarity and focus. And we've put again in the links in the window, below the window here, links to this introduction to the Srf Lessons by Paramount Yogananda, in which he really lays out this entire vision, in one sense, in a encapsulated form, this entire legacy of what he wants to give to us, of what he was asked to bring to the world at this critical juncture of world history. So I would suggest that's one good way to spend the next few hours. Just go over that, read it carefully, let it sink into your heart and mind as a way of preparing the consciousness for what will be given and what will be discussed and offered during the rest of the week. You know, I'm sitting here in the chapel at Mother Center. As I said, it's a thrill beyond words just to envision the thousands upon thousands, many more than we've ever had at a convocation before, of all of you participating from all these countries around the world. And yet, I have to say, I still, part of me misses looking out and seeing you in the Bonaventure Hotel. And many of you have been there years and years before, those convocations at the Bonaventure or at the Biltmore Hotel here in Los Angeles. So I'm sure that many of you are reliving a lot of good memories today. Those memories of coming together in that vast hall with thousands of Paramount Yogananda's Kriya yogis from all over the world in that wonderful convocation spirit of fellowship and joy. But let's do something all together. As we begin this online convocation, all of you who remember, who have experienced that unique joy, that unique vibration of our convocations over the years, let's take a moment to visualize and feel that same joy, spreading out and embracing all of the many, 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 many more thousands of souls who are joining us in this virtual convocation. Feel that joy, feel that divine fellow feeling, as our Guru loved to call it, flowing out from our hearts and our homes and joining and connecting and merging with the thousands of others who are participating today. Let that love and divine friendship, those shared spiritual aspirations, flow together into a great river of spiritual power, a great ocean of spiritual light, and joy and healing, and let those waves wash over the entire world, the entire human family, all countries of the planet. And in thinking of that joy, I want to share another, this is, I think you'll all appreciate this. Even though we were not able to gather as in past years at the Bonaventure, I think you'll be happy to know that at least one person among our number is at the Bonaventure. And we got this letter from a devotee just a few days ago, and I wanted to share it to you. This is a SRF devotee who lives in Kansas, in Wichita, Kansas. And he says this. Let me find this letter here. He said, some friends suggested that I share this story with you. When I learned that Convocation was going to be online this year, my wife and another friend suggested that I could go somewhere to get away from the activity in our house so I could really immerse in Convocation. Maybe I could find a cabin in the woods or have a secluded retreat for the week. I looked on Airbnb and, not surprisingly, discovered that it's kind of hard to find a, quote, cabin in the woods that has a good internet connection. So I explored a few possibilities. I actually found a cabin at a spiritual healing center that seemed good, except it was only available for part of the week. So I found another place that I could use for the rest of the week, but somehow it didn't feel quite right to pack up and move midweek. I checked with some friends about retreat centers in Kansas and Oklahoma. I contacted one place with some friends about, I contacted one place that sounded perfect, a private cabin, Wi-Fi, and even vegetarian meals provided, except they're closed for the month of August. So I started giving up on the idea and was even considering just staying at home and there in Wichita and trying to stay in seclusion. Again, not ideal, but better than nothing. Then I got a call out of the blue from the last retreat center that I had contacted, but I hadn't heard back from them. And it's called, this retreat center is called St. Francis of the Woods. And this devotee says, you know, I've always felt a special affinity for St. Francis, and I love being in the woods. The priest who called, one in charge of this St. Francis of the Woods, said they would be glad to have me. And I could use the internet and the large TV screen in their library where I would be left alone to watch the programs, to chant and meditate. And get this, he said they even have a couple of our master's books in their library. And he looks forward to learning more about SRF. You know, saints of all religions, isn't it? But here's the conclusion. Then the priest said to him, you know, I think the best cabin for you would be the one named St. Bonaventure. I was speechless. I was speechless, he said. Master connected me with the perfect place and even arranged for me to stay at the Bonaventure for Convocation. Jai Guru. Well, that's the part of the magic of Convocation. Part of literally thousands and thousands of little wonderful stories that make that relationship that each of us is forging with God and Guru so personal, so real. So my dear friends, we'll start getting to the close here now. leave you with those thoughts, a few other things that I want to say. And just to let you know, as you've seen on the schedule, I'll be happy to meet with you all again at the end of the week. And, when I looked at the schedule, I thought, something, that's not actually true. I think there's a misunderstanding about the schedule. I'm not going to meet with you again. You know who I'm going to meet with? Instead, I'm going to be meeting with the newly transformed and reborn individuals who used to be you. You'll be different people 1 week from now. And that's the group that I'm looking forward to speaking with next Saturday. There was this beautiful story that was published in our magazine some years ago. And it took place in an ashram in India. And one of the young devotees who had come there to receive the training of the master, the training of the guru, one day he was going about his duties, and the guru, the sage, was watching, and he noticed that this young man seemed dejected. He seemed a little depressed. And he went to him and said, "My boy, why are you so sad?" And the young man said, "Sir, I love to hear you speak about the teachings of the Bhagavad Gita, as you do for all of us. But the problem is I don't remember much afterwards. It just goes in one ear and out the other, seemingly. And the other boys, the other devotees, they easily talk about the holy teachings, and yet I know nothing. I really wonder if I'm worthy of being here. Maybe I don't belong here." And the guru was thoughtful for a moment. He took a moment, and then he turned to the young man and he said, "Fetch me the coal basket." And the boy, who loved to serve, to carry out anything that the master asked, he returned quickly with the basket that the students used to carry coal to the cooking stove. And inside the basket was just black, covered with the dust of the burden of the coal that it was carrying every day. And so the master turned to him and he said, "Fill that basket with water from the river and bring it back to me." And the boy, he looked befuddled and, "What? Fill it with water?" And he said, Don't be worried. Just do as I say." So the boy dipped the basket into the river, but before he could get back to the guru, all the water, of course, had leaked out. The guru said, "Do it again." 5 times he went to the river, filled the basket with water, and each time he ran faster and faster to try to get there while there was still some water in the basket, but it was always empty by the time he got back to the sage. And finally, the boy said, "Teacher, you have given me an impossible task. It's useless to try to bring you water in this basket." And the guru looked at him and said, "You think it is useless? Look inside the basket." And the young man looked in, and he saw that the basket was now different. Very different. It was completely clean. The water had washed away all traces of that coal dust, of that dirt and grime that had covered it. And the sage explained to him, "Now you may not remember, you may not understand everything when we study the Bhagavad Gita, when we talk about these holy teachings, but even just listening with patience, with reverence, that's going to gradually change your consciousness until your heart is cleansed of mortal delusion and fears and darkness." And then he put his arm lovingly around the chela and he said, "Just remember, God is not a scholar, God is a lover. And if you seek him sincerely, one day you will see how he has transformed you utterly." That's what keeping company with the Guru and his teachings does for each one of us. That's what participating in SRF and YSS events like this week's convocation will do for you. And during these gatherings, the Gurus bathe us in their light. They bathe us in that divine light. And they smilingly watch as we are changed. On this wonderful, joyous opening day of the Centennial Convocation, my greatest wish, my greatest prayer is that each and every one of you, all over the world, can feel and be transformed by this great outpouring, this great flame of divine love, divine consciousness, divine joy that flows from our Guru founder, Paramahansa Yogananda. And I want to end our time today together by reading a message, reading his words, beautiful, powerful, awakening words from a talk, excerpts from a talk, was given right here in this very chapel. Because, we're going to be talking for hours over the next few days, next 7 days. We're going to be covering many, many different things about this and that aspect of the spiritual path, the how to live teachings, the meditation techniques. As we all know, those teachings literally fill volumes. But my plea, my hope, my prayer for all of you is this, that we never forget the one central message that Paramahansa Yogananda lived his life to impress on our consciousness, on the very atoms of our being. And that is very simple. Love God. Love God. Love God. Cultivate the urgency of the soul's innate, unquenchable longing to be reunited with God. So please close your eyes, open your heart, listen with attention, and let these words of Paramahansa Yogananda, our divine Guru Dev, our beloved Master, go deep within your heart. And I'm going to ask, please, camera put on the altar showing the images of our Gurus. Feel that these words are really a guided meditation, a message from him to each one of you. Guruji said, Heavenly Father, thou dost grant those prayers that come from our heart. And this is my heartfelt prayer, that all of us here be visited by thy presence, thy glorious presence. O infinite light, all the candles of our devotion are burning. Come, come, come unto us. The love of God cannot be described, but it can be felt as the heart is purified and made constant. As the mind and feeling are directed inward, you begin to feel his joy. The pleasures of the senses do not last, but the joy of God is everlasting. It is incomparable. Forget everything else. Just lay yourself at God's feet. There's no time like the present to surrender yourself unto him. At first, he bestows a glimpse of joy that comes after a little meditation and stays but a little while. That's when most people misunderstand and give up and are lost again in worldly snares. But great joy and happiness are to be had if you go on until you experience the bliss of contact with the great ones. That is why you should use all the strength of your soul to find God. There is no other gift you can give God but the gift of your love. If God could ever be said to beg from us, It is for our love. If he wants anything at all from us, it is our love. The smokescreen of delusion has come between us and him, and he is sorry that we have lost sight of him. He is not happy seeing his children suffer so much, dying from falling bombs, terrible diseases, wrong habits of living. He regrets it, for he loves us and wants us back. If only you would make the effort at night to meditate and be with him. He thinks of you so much. He thinks of you so much. May you all be so filled with the love of God that in your heart you know nothing else, day or night, but his peace and joy. No joy is real except that of the Spirit, but unless your heart cries for God, you cannot know him. The hearts of worldly people become dry as dust. Why? Because they cry for everything except God. You must cry for the Lord. Cry for him who, if you would but realize it, is already yours. The sole purpose of creation is to compel you to solve its mystery and perceive God behind all. He wants you to forget everything else and seek him alone. And once you have found refuge in the Lord, there is no consciousness of life and death as realities. You will then see all dualities like dreams during sleep, coming and going in the eternal existence of God. Forget not this sermon, a sermon he is expressing to you through my voice. Forget not, he is saying to you, I am just as helpless as you, for I, as your soul, am tied in the body with you. Unless you redeem yourself, I am caged with you. So dally no more, groveling in the mud of suffering and ignorance. Come, come, bathe in my light. It is because God wants you that I am here with you, calling you to come home, where my beloved is, where Christ, Krishna, Babaji, Lahiri Mahashai, Sri Yukteswarji, and the other saints are. Come, the Lord is saying, they are all rejoicing in me. No worldly joys, the taste of food, the beauty of flowers, the passing pleasure of earthly love, can compare with the divine joys of my home. Come, come, come. Every night in meditation you shall live with me in eternal love. Remember me, remember my love. Thus the Lord is calling you. There is only one reality. It is He. Forget everything else. Make the Self-Realization Fellowship lessons your daily study and meditate every night. Don't go to bed until you have communed with God. In the silence of the night, in the bower of your consciousness, beyond the reach of the noisy senses, renew your romance with God. In the bower of infinitude, beneath His moon-ed joy, have eternal communion with the beloved of the universe. My body shall pass, but my work shall go on, and my spirit shall live on. Even when I am taken away, I shall work with you all for the deliverance of the world with the message of God. Prepare yourselves for the glory of God. Charge yourselves with the flame of Spirit. The Lord wants us to escape this delusive world. He cries for us, for He knows how hard it is for us to gain His deliverance. But you have only to remember that you are His child. Don't pity yourself. You are loved just as much by God as are Jesus and Krishna. You must seek His love, for it encompasses eternal freedom endless joy and immortality. Falter no more, you who have heard these words. Follow the truth that God has sent through self-realization fellowship, and you shall be forever blessed. God is ever calling you through the flute of my heart. I urge you, forget him not, forget him not. Our bodies may perish, but let our souls blaze forever like eternal stars in the heart of God. Pray with me, Guruji says, Heavenly Father, charge my body with thy power. Charge my life with thy life. Charge my soul with thine eternal love. We surrender ourselves unto thee. Heavenly Father, Mother, Friend, Beloved God, be thou with us evermore. This is our earnest prayer. Be with us evermore. Beloved ones, that is Paramahansa Yogananda's message to each one of you. Let it sink into your cells. Let it sink into every fiber of your being. And when we come together at the end of the week, you will not be the same person. Now, if you want to continue meditating, please do so. You might also enjoy joining the Monk's Kirtan, which you can find in the links below the video window. Let this be a beginning of a blessed, transforming week. Go deep, go deep. God bless you until we meet again. Jai Guru.